The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the host and guest and do not reflect the opinions or policies of the station, its owners, or its advertisers. All content should be considered editorial in nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Recorded live from the radio studios of WFAY and WMRV, Androlonis Media presents Cumberland County's smartest hour of talk radio. Welcome back to another edition of the Carolina Cabinet.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Carolina Cabinet. I'm Peter Pappas. I'll be your host this morning. We're proud to be the only homegrown conservative talk radio show in the region, and we know this is the smartest hour of radio. Our job is to give a voice to the conservatives of Fayetteville, Cumberland County, and beyond. This morning, we welcome host of the Cabinet, Pastor Joshua Goodman.
Good morning, family.
Ms. Carrie J.
Looking all
Fired
nice.
a uniparty.
Ooh, somebody's fired up this morning. And over here in the corner, not on camera yet, is our esteemed colleague, Bishop J. Antoine Miner.
Bishop. Dr. B.
So we're going to dive into our show. We appreciate you tuning in and spending time with us this morning. Please take a moment to like, share, or follow us on Facebook and look for us at thecarolinacabinet.com. You can find links to our shows and how to listen on your favorite podcast broadcaster. And with that, don't go far. We'll be right back.
Since 2012, Joshua Goodman has been the senior pastor at the Cliffdale Christian Center, a dynamic church and ministry located in West Fayetteville. Join our friend Pastor Goodman for a podcast or a live sermon in person at 6427 Cliffdale Road. Now for today's good news. Here is Joshua Goodman.
Well, good morning from the All-American City. This is Pastor Josh, and have I got some good news for you. In a time when so many want to unpack, talk about, and discuss all the problems, circumstances, and situations, all the negative junk, I'm here to give you some good news. Can you believe it? We are almost halfway through 2025. Summer is here. Kids are out of school, and the crazy has begun. Let me give this to you today. You only get one shot at the summer of 2025. Live it, breathe it, soak in it, because I hate to tell you, it's going to be over before you know it. Paul writes to the church at Ephesus, and he says this. He says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil." Now, circumspectly is not a word we often use in our modern vocabulary, but circumspectly means to walk exactly, to walk accurately, to walk diligently. The fool is the one that does not walk accurately and diligently. And true confessions from Pastor Josh, I have lived many a foolish day. The older I get, I hope I'm able to live more accurately and more diligently. Like I said, I hope to. I remember growing up in Florida before my family moved to Haiti, spending summers almost completely at my grandmother's house. She lived in a little off of a little canal, off of the Weeki Wachee River. Man, let me tell you, we swam, we dove, we fished, we tubed our way through every summer. I was talking to an uncle of mine couple months back, and I said, man, what a great place to have spent my childhood. And the more I think about it, it was an absolutely great place to spend my childhood, but even more important than spending my childhood in that place was spending my childhood with the people I was spending it with. Spending summers on my Uncle Bo's speedboat skiing. Spending summers with my cousin Mike, fishing every canal that we could find. Other cousins tubing down the Weeki Wachee River. Man, you want to talk about the good old days. You bet they were good. Consider this, though. One day, this summer is going to be the good old days. make memories. And remember, it's not just about what you're doing. It's really about who you're with, your family, your friends, your community. This is Pastor Josh, and that is your good news.
The cancel culture is not welcome here. You're listening to the conservative Carolina Cabinet, Eastern North Carolina's most offensive talk show to the freeloading left.
And welcome back. Good morning to the Carolina Cabinet.
Good morning,
I'm Peter.
good morning.
Everybody,
Good
good to see
morning.
you in studio this morning.
Whoop, whoop.
It's always a pleasure. So,
What's going on with Carrie over there?
Yeah.
She wired up today.
She said her coffee.
Y'all doing all right?
Carrie is keyed up. I will
She
tell you that
is.
right now. We've been talking before the show, and she is ready to roll. So let's do our cabinet update.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
going to go first this time.
Hit me.
So
Go ahead, please.
I got exciting news. Republican Candidate Resource Center.
Whoop,
We have
whoop.
some things going on there, and I heard the GOP is looking to open an office soon. So
Hey.
more to come with
Ooh,
that.
Congratulations.
I gained a real estate certification last
Hey.
week. I
Did
went to
you?
class.
Hot dog.
I am now a pricing strategy advisor.
Were you a
Oh.
good student?
Pricing
I'm always a good student. I sit
right up
What
front,
is that?
you know.
I think
Teacher
it's somebody
pet.
who says whether the price is
Yeah. Price
fair
is
and-
right.
Yeah, the
Fair
price is
or
right.
not, if the
Okay,
price
Bob
is
Barker.
Right. Bob Barker, bring it on down.
Bishop, come on down.
Peter Pappas.
I even leased a building, and this Wednesday I'm going up to Raleigh with the Chamber of Commerce as their representative from
Nice.
government.
Look
or
at you.
What is it,
Come
government
Look at
affairs?
you.
What am I
It's
on? The Government Relations Committee.
Relations
Yeah, too much stuff
Committee.
going
I don't even know
Peter.
what I'm chairman of, but I'm there and I'm
Government
going.
Relations
I-
Committee.
I'm gonna
Let's say
go
that
and
all together.
I'm going to press some flesh up there and talk to
GRC.
our elected officials
Press
and
some
hopefully see.
flesh.
Congratulations.
I ain't kissing
That's
babies, bro. I'm not kissing.
You're not
Walk
kissing babies.
circumspect.
You know
You
what?
walk
And I have to say,
circumspectly,
Pastor
Peter.
Josh, I have.
But you're
listening
going to
you,
help us lobby.
Yes.
All right. That's
Lobby
great.
for our business community, which it helps our entire community. But Josh, I have to say, I have not walked
In accordance
circumspectly in my life. You know,
He doesn't even know what circumspectly
You know, I
It
saw-
would be-
You know what?
crazy to find out.
I rewatched The Three Amigos last week.
Yeah.
And it reminded me there's some big words in the vocabulary that sometimes, do you know what the plethora is?
Yeah,
You know, remember that one? You know,
Do you
You are
know
in-
what the
infamous.
plethora?
plethora is? You know, so yeah, but the
Plethora?
circumspectly, we've talked about that
Yeah.
before, but I certainly have
It's-
not watched where I've stepped.
It's
Yeah.
one of
In
the
the
it's one
last,
of the plethora words.
Yeah.
For
But
him.
I love what you said about spending time with your loved ones in the summertime. It just made me
Yes.
remember being a kid and those long, slow
Oh,
summer
man.
days. And you can't wait to get older.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we're
now you-
old. And we're like,
Now I'm old. I'm sick of it.
Yes, yeah, I'm done. I want to go back.
I want my money back.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
You
So,
want your money back?
Yeah.
For hurrying up the
No. Well,
aging
go ahead
process.
and
The aging process.
Hey, just to let you know, it is like the summer for reading
Yes.
Okay.
has just kicked off.
That's cool.
1st of June. So
I love to read.
You too can read 20 hours of books and get an award from Cumberland County
Really?
Library.
What's the reward?
Hey,
Is it a
you
pizza
know,
from Pizza Hut?
20
personal
hours,
hand?
like what? A week, a month, or just over the whole summer?
I think it's like 20 hours over
summer.
the whole summer.
Whoa, holy
Like
cow.
they have
Yeah,
it.
I do about 20
They have
hours
it
a
broken
week.
out by 10 hours per summer. 10 hours, 20 hours, and then
Okay.
obviously, y'all can do the math.
So you're going to take the reading
Right?
challenge, Carrie? You signing up? I'll sign up.
You know
All right.
what? If that's a challenge to sign up, then I will sign up.
Okay, I challenge you to
understand what I'm
sign
saying?
up. So, Carrie,
Then I will sign up. But then it's also for kids.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think-
My
I
kids
think the main,
used to do it every year.
The main thing is for kids.
Yeah,
and
well-
I know, like, when I was a kid, and
Yep.
the library
Yep.
put out the whole summer roof,
Yep.
I was trying to get the Slurpees in the Pizza Hut.
Yep.
yeah, I
personal
mean, the
pan
Pizza
pizza.
Hut thing motivated me for food. Remember?
Oh, absolutely.
You
Yeah.
can get a personal,
That personal
pan
pan
pizza.
pizza.
As a
if you can
kid,
book it.
that's what you need. You
Yep.
want the personal
want-
pan
there was
pizza
something about
and
it.
the Slurpee.
Yeah, you just
Like,
yeah.
you
But
want
we
that.
didn't have this type of stuff in
I
New
didn't
York
have the
City growing up. Like,
Y'all didn't have
I don't know
roofs
what
over
you
your
guys.
heads
Like,
in
I
New
don't
York.
know why you
Honestly-
were deprived. I was in this great state of Virginia. So.
yeah, New York City. I don't think as a child I'm sitting here thinking like I've probably only seen the inside of a New York public library once in my life. Like it's not something that you just do. You don't go to the
You don't go to the
library. No,
library.
and they
Well,
don't
you don't
have.
have to go to the library. You just have to read and tell the
Yeah.
library that you read.
This
Yeah.
coming from an up and coming author.
We don't even talk.
You never
to the
went on the
library.
inside of the library?
You don't
like
talk to the
like
librarian?
no. See, the libraries in New York City are not like how the libraries here like really kind of engrafted into the community. Everybody knows about the library. People do events at the library, stuff like that. In New York City, no. The library is where you go if you have to research something, study. Especially when I was growing up, because you didn't have the internet to research everything.
Yeah.
You had to
Go to the
either your
library.
parents had a
Do
big
the
stack
card
of
catalog.
encyclopedias.
Card catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
but
Dewey Decimal System, baby.
we didn't.
Decimal.
The only library I can honestly, as a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever been inside a New York City public library. The only library I
gosh.
remember ever going into was the library at school.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Library of Congress.
No, the library at school. Every school has a library.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even like it is now. Like, the library wasn't some place that you went for class. Like how you have resources, you go to the library for resource and media.
Oh, man.
It wasn't like that growing up. The library was literally where you went if you needed to check out a book. You checked it out. You checked it back in. That was the library. The librarian was some old lady.
White hair in a bun.
Yeah,
I
she
feel-
sat there. And I remember in elementary, our librarian's name was Miss Hines. And I know that because her daughter was my teacher.
Girlfriend?
She was my sixth grade teacher. And she kept me out of trouble. So I knew Mrs.
big job.
Hines.
I was going to say, yeah, she must have had a full-time job.
Yeah, I was actually good in sixth grade. It was fifth grade that was the
I'm
rough
surprised she
year.
didn't make you a library aide.
No, she
So
just
see, like when I was growing up, right? Like if you got in trouble, then you got stuck on
Yeah,
library duty.
library duty.
But see, I didn't get in trouble and sent to the library. The library,
Oh.
like,
So you should have gotten in trouble and gotten stuck.
no,
on
whenever I
library
went to the
duty.
library, I was always very respectful because my teacher was Miss Hines. Her mom was the librarian, Mrs. Hines.
Yeah.
And I loved the both of them. So when I went to the library, I was like, shh, no talking. Mrs. Hines is in the building. And so, but we didn't have, it wasn't like resource. You go to the library because you went to the library for independent study. You checked out your book. You sat there. You were extremely quiet.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was no playing of music. There was no playing of
Yeah, it's
Oh,
way
no,
different now.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
it's-
library is
yeah.
still extremely quiet in nature. I mean,
But now they got like a
I
media
know.
center where
I
you
had
can
a-
watch movies.
So-
yeah, but the media center is typically in a closed off area. Like I've always
Mm-hmm.
known the library to be typically quiet.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I don't know, maybe it was for us troublesome people, Pastor
Probably.
Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
now
it's
they're
like
more open.
when you were in trouble, like that's where you had to
you
learn.
had to go to the library
you
and do
had to-
study hall or something.
Well,
No.
it wasn't study hall. So they told you it was study hall,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't. That's where you learn the Dewey Decimal System
Yes.
Right.
and how to put things
And
in
that-
alphabetical order.
Where to put the books
and
back.
where to put the books
Ask me
back.
how I know.
Alphabetical order by the category
Yeah, by the
of
category
that book.
Of the catalog from the Dewey
Of the
Decimal.
catalog from the Dewey Decimal System. So
That must have been a Virginia South thing.
no.
Yes.
That was if you get in trouble.
Yeah.
And you need to.
You know what I'm
do
saying is that you say you
studious-
grew up in Virginia.
I did, but Pastor Josh did.
Florida.
Where'd you grow up in?
Florida.
See, that's what
Pastor
I'm
Josh-
saying. That had to be like a Virginia
It
going
might have.
south.
You know what? You're right. It probably was a
because above
past
that
the-
Mason-Dixon
below
line.
that Mason
Yeah.
Dixon line thing. You probably correct.
So,
That's how they chastise it.
Carrie,
the
give me
children.
one or two wins the last week you've had. What you been
One
up to?
or two wins.
One or two wins. What you been up to?
I saw you live too. Your little video you put out.
Okay, so because Bishop saw my live, I'm going to say what I put out there
Mm-hmm.
is that sometimes you may want to take some time to love on yourself.
Excellent.
So
you got to put the
as
sass
you
in
are-
there that you did.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know how what sass because
Do I need to share
early
this
morning
on the-
sass. No, early morning sass is a little bit different from evening sass.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then early morning again. So, what I'm gonna say is that you need to love on yourself. So when you are, if you find yourself in a bad, not a good mood or whatever, and you're in the dumps, then put on that love ballad. It was birthed out of love. So, it just happened to be like Always and Forever was on the radio.
Always and
Yeah, so that could be, even though you think that it could be a song that's meant for two. However, that song can be meant for one, and you can sing Always and Forever to
Over
yourself.
Come on, girl.
And then you can love on yourself.
Take
And
up
if you
an
can't
offering
love
for
on
it.
Come on,
yourself,
let me
you
tell
can
you.
actually, if you want to, you can bring Jesus into
Yeah.
the whole thing, and you can say that this is the Always and Forever thing, because guess what? He is there always,
Always and
and forever.
forever.
Lock the doors.
You
We're taking
know?
up an offering.
I was about
He's
to say
right
that.
there.
Ushers, close them doors.
So that's I guess that's Miss
That's your
Carrie
win.
J's good
That's
news.
yeah,
Here's
there you
Jay's
go.
news.
I like it.
So, Josh, what you got?
Oh,
Last
man,
week
I've
or
had,
two?
yeah, it's been
We
hectic.
skipped a couple weeks.
Yeah,
so,
I've been out, but I was at the beach one week, and
Okay.
this past weekend we did a workshop with my mentor. I picked him up Friday. We had a meeting then. Saturday had a meeting then. Sunday had a meeting then. Sunday we had a meeting, and then Sunday night we had another meeting.
Where's my invite?
And I dropped him off, man. And I don't even think I don't even think we got it
too
on YouTube
deep.
because
Didn't that sound like
dude,
too deep?
it was
Bishop,
a
that was
word,
intense.
And so whenever he comes in, I'm looking for ways that I can increase in my communication, influence, leadership capability, know. And I told him that today. I'm like, hey, every time you come in, I don't want to be the same when you got here as when you leave. So, and he was really able to coach me and identify some areas in leadership. And if you can go back and look at the YouTube, Jimmy Moss, it had really solid leadership.
That's good, Josh. Because a lot of leaders, especially pastors, a lot of pastors don't like to take input, advice, corrective criticism. They don't like to be mentored. They feel they got it, especially when you have a larger size congregation. You got a whole campus over there. When I toured it, which I was like, where did all these buildings come from? A lot of time when pastors get to a certain level, they feel, can't nobody tell me nothing. I'm doing good. I got it covered. But it really takes a real leader to say, you know what, I can always do better. And I invite you to critique me in these areas or whatever area you see fit. Give me that input because I don't want to remain the same.
And I have the discussions with him. I'm like, okay, so because I want to get all I can from this, what do you mean by this? How can I apply that to my day-to-day? And so it's not just, okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. No,
and be real with me.
And
just
be real. Yeah,
give it to me straight.
And he was able to really, again, we had our leadership team he met with on Saturday. Sunday he did the service. And then then we did a pastoral thing on Sunday night. And like I said, all the way around, it was good, solid input.
That's good. So, like what I call my bishop often, and I'll say, Bishop, I think I know the answer to this, but you've been doing this a lot longer than me, so I need your input in. And sometimes what he says kind of goes way off what I thought it was, and I'm like, okay, I can see it that way. And sometimes I'm like spot on, but I still am like, I need that additional accountability. I need that input to let me know that I'm on the right track.
Or if I'm off. And he'll tell me, let me tell you, I always know when I'm off the right track because he puts his hand on my shoulder and he pats it and he says, I love you, right? And I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah. Like, it's coming.
Oh, man, okay. Time to put on the big boy pants. Let's go. And and he's able to have those conversations with me.
That's real good.
Well, that's a
well,
good
the thing
week
is that
for
you're
you.
able to have those conversations.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of people that do not want to have those conversations.
And because as a leader, it's tough.
It is tough, but iron sharpens iron. And so, I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen a sword fight, but
you haven't been in my conference room, have you?
I have been in your conference room.
You have been in my, so
I've been. Yes, that's why
I got like 40, 50
all the medieval tools on the wall. Yeah.
The medieval tools. Going into his conference room is like going into King Arthur's
court.
Knights of the Round Table.
So, Bishop, what was one of your wins this week? You got a big one to announce.
Oh, yeah. Last Sunday was the release of the book, Facing the Storms, dealing with life's natural disasters. And it was also Sunday we released the book. It released on Amazon. It released on the website, thejantoineminer.com. But when I was sitting in all day Sunday, I was like, okay, I need to do a video promoting the release of the book. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting on my bed. I had just got in from being out with the kids all day. My son had company all weekend, so I'm like parenting and babysitting and everything, and all of a sudden it's storming, and I'm sitting and I heard Holy Spirit so clearly say to me, go do your promo. It's storming, and I hear the thunder and the rain is pouring.
It was coming down.
The trees were blowing, and I jumped up, put on my raincoat, went outside, had my son set up the light, and did the promo. And as I got outside, the storm, the winds calmed down, but you could still hear the rain and the thunder in the background. And I was like, this is perfect. And, we talked about how, just like this, I didn't pay attention to the weather on Sunday, and as a result, I wasn't prepared for the storm that was coming. Because I went out, and everything seemed clear. But as the day went on, that overcast hit, and I'm like, something's coming. And so that's one of the storms that I talk about in the book, those storms that if you pay attention to the weather report, you can tell they're coming. The overcast hits, the winds start to pick up. You know those are coming, but then you got those storms that come out of nowhere.
Sneak up out the
Sneak up
blue.
on you.
Yeah, and so the book has been released. It's on Amazon. I'm working on some other writing projects. I've just been in this writing mode and just getting stuff done, and it's just been it's been amazing. I was sitting there Sunday after the book release. I didn't cry, but I had one of those moments where I was like, okay, God, we did this thing.
Yeah.
Like, this has been like 15 years in the making.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, we made it. We made it here.
We did it.
And then I had to pray, and I'm like, okay, God, now we done released the book. Now what we doing next? So let's get a plan. We got to sell some books. We got to get some things done. So the book again is for sale. We got some dates coming up. We're going to be coming to Cliffdale Christian Center. I think you said July.
It wasn't because I had
because
Apostle
June you're booked. But we'll get that date. The 14th of June will be at Cliffdale. What's that church?
Cliffdale Community.
Cliffdale Community Church. We'll be there at 8 a.m. on June 14th to talk about the book. They have a men's group over there that we're going to speak to. So it's exciting. I'm excited. I'm like, now that I'm a published author.
Published author.
I don't do too much walking because it'll hurt my hands.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I called my sisters the other day, and they were talking to me. I said, I can't really have these mediocre conversations with you non-published writers.
That's right. I'm a novelist.
Exactly. I'm writing books now, so I can't mess around with you with your low verbal skills. My sister said there was something wrong with you.
This from the guy that never went into the library.
Hey,
just remember
right?
that.
Yeah.
It is from the same guy. that
I don't
never
read
went
books.
into
I just write them.
All right.
Reading
All right,
is
y'all,
never
well-
a qualification for writing.
Exactly.
Obviously
Exactly.
not,
But I need you
'cause
all to read the book.
Yes.
Read the book.
I think you need everybody to buy the book.
Yes.
Buy the book.
Buy the book.
Yes.
And then don't read the book to anybody else. Tell them to buy their own copy.
There you go. I'm gonna put it on the interweb. Keep it up.
You see this?
I'm
You see?
a free use that thing.
That's
so.
fine. That's fine. Just get my royalties.
So we got a lot going on. We've obviously been very busy in our own communities. A little bit of business, a little bit of church in this, that, and the other. And me not walking circumspectly any damn place.
You
So
already know that. At least you have your shirt buttoned up today.
I do. I did it. I didn't want to distract Bishop. So
I know, because it'd be hard.
So
But both
this
of you guys got
this
your
upcoming
Between
Wednesday.
him and Josh, I'm like,
So Wednesday the 4th, County Commission's having a meeting, room 564 at the courthouse building, I guess. And they're going to be talking about the Crown Event Center and the update. So hopefully they're going to take the brakes off of that, and we're going to get us a Crown Event Center going again. Hopefully.
okay. Hopefully.
So just a couple of announcements here. City of Fayetteville curfew. So I got 2 questions. Is it legal? Is it helpful? Y'all want to weigh in?
Yeah,
is it legal?
Is it legal?
And to
what would
establish
make
a
it not
curfew?
legal?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would ask. What would make it not legal? Because I know the first thing people say is it's infringing on constitutional rights.
However, they put that inside of the curfew that if you're doing anything within your First Amendment, then
you can
do
be
not
outside
have
of the
to.
curfew. Okay,
Yes.
all right. So there's a mechanism.
What about
for that.
Second Amendment?
So
I mean, Second Amendment
Well,
doesn't even come into
seems
play.
we got the second because we got the first, so we want to keep the first. But
You might want to keep the first.
So-
You know what? That's my issue with the second is that everybody talks about 2A, 2A, 2A. I'm like, okay, well, what about 1A? Can we get back to 1A?
well, we have 1A.
You know
That's
what
why
I'm
we
saying?
have to have 2A to make sure we keep the
I
1A.
know, but everybody's stressing on 2A that nobody even cares about 1A. So 1A that's your,
But I think the
what
government
is,
did that.
what is 1A? Let's
The
ask
founding
that. Let me
fathers
ask that.
knew
So
before
what
we
is
did
1A?
the FAFO acronym.
What is the First Amendment? Let's really
First
can we break
Amendment
that down?
summed up to me is I have a right to offend you and you have the right to be offended.
Yes, Lord.
And
right
honestly,
to
I
offend
have
you.
the right to offend you, and you have the right to be offended. And if you decide to offend me back, that's your right. Now,
right.
what you cannot do is physically assault me. But if you want to say offensive things to me, I don't care. See, we grew up understanding this, but they taught us about the First Amendment in a different way when I was growing up. You know what they said? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That was the First Amendment summed up. I mean, it's elementary, dear Watson.
Is it?
It is. I think that's
Okay.
to me that's one
So
A.
that covers the freedom of speech. That
Freedom
covers
to assemble.
The freedom to assemble. That covers the freedom of press.
And these rights shall not be
freedom-
infringed.
The freedom of speech. Right.
Which includes, in
And
some cases, people burning the
Why are
flag.
The freedom of religion. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's go.
Who's
Go
debating
ahead.
any of that?
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that anybody was debating it. I just would like to make sure that
And
for
these
our
rights-
listeners, because we have listeners
Yeah.
out there
Yeah.
that they could be whatever
So-
or whatever.
And these rights, Carrie,
Let's
shall
do-
not be infringed.
Let's discuss it circumspectly.
Oh, yes.
This is going to be the word of the day.
Circumspectly
So with
discussing
with
the
the,
First
the
Amendment.
amount of propaganda
The
and
amount of
the
propaganda.
lies
Thank you, Pastor
and
Josh.
I mean, is should propaganda be regulated?
No. Because it violates the First
No,
Amendment.
I'm with you. I'm with you. but
Here's what happens.
Propaganda cannot
You have
be
the right
regulated.
to.
It cannot.
You have a right
I can
to
say, and I can say it's a fact
yeah. You
on
can-
Facebook.
You shouldn't regulate it because if I'm not mistaken, there's a part that talks about where it talks about if I say something that is harmful to you, you really can't hold me accountable for it as long as you have time to respond or someone has time to refute it. So I think whether it's I know we look at the stuff on the news and we say, oh, they lied. Listen, they have that right. Now, if what they lied causes harm,
Yeah.
then now
is
we
an
have a
issue.
problem.
Yes.
But if you want to sit up there and like, for example, you can yell fire in a movie theater.
If you want
That's your
to.
First Amendment right. However, when
If there
yelling
is
fire in a movie theater
If you cause it a
cause
rampage,
harm.
or
cause
you
harm,
cause harm,
now you have a problem. Now you
Yes.
have crossed that line.
especially if there was not an actual fire.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
so here's the thing: is that you can say what you want to say, as long as it is an opinion.
And someone
But
has to
as
have
soon
time
as-
to refute
But
it.
if you say that it is a fact, then it has to bona fidely be a fact. Because if not, you can be held liable for
Yeah.
the statement. if
Whatever it is.
As
if it is
long
not.
as someone does not have time to refute it. So, for example, if I yell fire and then Peter goes, nope, there's no fire, then there's really nothing that can be done to me because he countered what I said. There was time. But if I yell fire and everybody jump up and run out and stomp and Carrie gets trampled on, now whatever happened to her is on me because I'm the one that yelled fire in that crowded environment. So there's some loopholes in there that we have to be cognitive of because
Using all those big words.
I know we're
today.
using them today.
because circumstantially,
I'm just saying we in the
cognitive.
seas.
Yes, yeah.
We in the seas. Like my mother used to look in the dictionary and be in the different letters and shit.
Oh, for
You come
Sesame
home.
Street, the word,
Yeah.
the letter of the day.
Exactly.
Let's see.
My mother come home and be like, "You're acting asinine." Like, Ma, you was in the A's again.
So, all right, bringing it back to the curfew though, and the last
11
thing I
another
want
C.
yeah. So, there's a lot of questions that remaining. There were 3 council people that stuck out: Councilman Hondros, Green, and Benavente. They were a little bit upset the last meeting because
Why?
they said we have questions.
Oh, you're
and
missing a
the
council
rest.
person.
There was one more. I can't remember who it was.
Brenda McNair.
Was it McNair?
Yes.
So there were 4 out of the 10 that said, "Look, we have questions," but the 6 voted to go ahead and implement it. We are under the curfew now. The curfew is in effect for.
I don't
voters
be
that are
outside at that time anyway.
Well, what?
Yeah.
Is it 16 and younger right now?
It's 16 and younger, and
Okay.
actually, it kind of empowers businesses to then say,
So-
"Hey, you are past your curfew. You can no longer be in this
Right.
place." So
And
as far as
Chief
like when it
Braden-
comes down to enforcing loitering and stuff like that, which yes, Chief Braden did mention this when
He
he was
mentioned it
on
was
the.
another tool in their toolbox
It's
just to
another
give them a
tool.
reason
That's
to
it.
interface with the young man.
What is the curfew?
Or
16 and under.
16 and under, and I think it's like 11
11
o'clock.
p.m. to 6 a.m.
Okay.
16
Okay.
years
So
old, you
here's the
shouldn't be
thing.
outside at that time
You
anyway.
shouldn't.
That's just me.
No, and I mean, and not just you, but I mean, what Okay.
What you doing outside at 16?
Every time I think about this curfew, you want to know what song pops into my head?
F the police.
No. No.
I fought the law and the law won.
Rick James. Rick James. The freaks come out at night.
That was Rick James.
I do believe so.
The freaks come out at night. The freaks come out. The freaks come out.
I mean, look, no matter what, I think it's a challenge and I think Lynn Green said it. Councilman Green says not everybody's fortunate enough to have a good set of parents at home.
Yep.
So, in some cases, we're making these children go to possibly abusive situation, whatever. But we cannot parent
wait a minute. Hold
every
on, Peter. What you
errant
mean?
child.
What you mean? How are we causing them to go into abusive situation?
Not causing to go into, but returning to.
So
an
do we
abusive
do
situation.
so then here, and I understand what
but
you're
that's
saying.
That's a very
I'm sorry,
very
that was
narrow
Houdini.
view
Yeah.
out of everything.
Houdini.
Like
Houdini.
how many children are in this
Freaks come
town?
out. It's Houdini.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Who what?
Houdini.
Houdini
Freaks
what?
Come out. Freaks come out. It's Houdini.
Oh, it was
Oh, okay.
Houdini.
All right.
It was
So-
Baldino's.
Yeah, Houdini's. My dad had a restaurant named Houdini's before. I'll tell you about that later. But the tagline was "We make them so they disappear." It was sweet.
Well, they
For the win.
obviously disappeared tonight because
There's none there. Yeah.
There's none here.
So,
Thanks, Jim.
so my thing with the
Thanks,
curfew
Houdini
is,
Baldino's.
as before, when the curfew was proposed, they had not reached out to DSS or the other agencies to cooperate. That if say they took little Johnny down for being little bad butt, there wasn't a mechanism. Like they knew they weren't going to put him in jail
No, they can't.
for violating the curfew, but they also didn't have a mechanism to work with DSS. And DSS, from what I've understood through the network that I have, was resistant to even help the police because they claim lack of manpower.
lack of
But
resources.
you know what? I'm about had it with this lack of resource. I want to know what I'm getting for the resource we have, and that's what the
Well,
Daves and the Doges.
You're not getting a whole lot.
this.
But I'm just.
I don't think that there's social workers that are overpaid, but I want to see how
well,
they're
they're
being
not.
utilized.
But they're not overpaid. But they're probably overworked, is what I can say for any social.
You know
worker
what the solution is,
and
Carrie?
anyone. But I do believe that. So one, in the curfew, it does not directly refer to DSS being put into play because it refers them to the juvenile system that they have, which is not the actual,
has not taken the
which
step
is
to
not
be with
the
DSS.
actual court system. Or does it bring DSS into play immediately? It's more of a mediator type of system.
I think anytime you
And
got
then
anybody under 16, they
imposes-
need to be involved immediately.
Yes, but it strictly really enforces on to the adult. So the adult parent that is supposed to be responsible for said child, if they are not caring for said child, then they will get the actual
well, DSS does a home visit and
fine.
figures out why little Johnny was out on the streets at 2 o'clock in the
no,
morning.
it's not DSS doing the home visit. This is the cop actually saying, "Where is your parent? Do they know that you're here? Okay, well, let me notify your parent and tell your parent to come pick you up." Now, if your parent does not come pick you up, then that's a whole nother can of worms.
That's when
and
DSS gets involved.
They'll get a fine, but they'll get a fine first before DSS comes involved. So according to the curfew, as it reads, they'll get a fine first.
Well,
which is almost like you getting a parking ticket downtown when you don't pay your parking.
Here's where
so
that-
because you have violated, you now get a fine.
Here's where that doesn't work. And if there's law enforcement listening, they can correct me. Because they're 16 and under, they can't be arrested for breaking the curfew. They can be detained. However,
Yes.
once they have been detained, they cannot be released until a parent or legal guardian picks them up.
Right.
If they call a certain number of times and that parent does not respond or pick them up, they cannot release that child back. They then have to turn that child over to DSS. Now the parent has a DSS case because DSS has to get involved at that point because the parent never responded to the police. Now the police could take the child to the house and knock on the door. If the parents aren't there, they can't just leave little Johnny at the house. They then got to take him back and hold him and keep him until someone signs for him and if the parent or the guardian doesn't do it, then that child is released into the custody of DSS. Now that parent has a DSS because DSS is not going to hold the child and just give him back to you.
That's true.
You now have a case.
Yes, but when it comes down to it, the curfew brings it to the negligence of the parent. And the thing is that they don't have to be They don't have to be with their parent. They just have to be with a qualified adult over the age of 21.
Okay.
All right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So if the child is with an adult over the age of 21 and that person vests for their care and they're in their custody,
parent or guardian.
That's
yes.
a little dangerous.
So
there. That's a little dangerous.
I'm just saying that's
because
what
who
is in the
verifies
curfew.
that 20? Let's just say you got a 16-year-old girl
It
outside.
doesn't say
and
that.
She messed. No, I understand that. But what I'm saying, let's just say you got a 16-year-old girl outside. She outside at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night because she just left her 21-year-old boyfriend's house, and she don't want. Parents don't know that she over there, and then she says, "Well, here, call Joe." And Joe shows up, but Joe is the 21-year-old that's sleeping with the 16-year-old. Now, the police have no verification that this child should be with this adult man, and they then... what makes that individual a qualified individual to take custody of a child that you can't verify? What if this child is out because the child been kidnapped, and now you done turned the child back over to the perpetrator because you have no verification of who this child should or should not be with?
You know what? That's a great question, Bishop. But at the same time, that actually opens up a window for the police to investigate said information that you just said.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because other than that, they wouldn't have had that information to go off of.
Maybe we should get the new police chief in here to answer that question.
We probably should. But I mean, in lieu of that, like, so for a young teenager that's probably thinking that, oh, well, this 21-year-old could vet for me. But then when the police officer with,
where were those 21-year-olds when I was 16?
years? Yeah, but whenever that police officer with
lesson,
20 years of experience comes to the screen and they're like, oh, this smells funny. This doesn't sound right.
Look, I think we just have to depend on the police. We know our police are professional people. They're going to pick up on something maybe not being right, the tenor of the room. But we're getting so deep in the weeds that you're talking about.
You got to get in the weeds, Peter.
It doesn't violate your constitutional rights. How about that? The curfew does not violate your constitutional rights.
No. We got to get in the weeds because that's where they keep finding bodies in Fayetteville, is in the weeds. They literally keep finding them in the weeds because we're not getting in the weeds.
Hey, either in the weeds or in the trenches, whichever one you want to get.
Both of them. They're finding them both.
You can go up and down the bypass at stoplights and be plenty in the weeds from the car next to you. So that's true. Let's talk about.
I just realized what you said.
You just missed.
I was out at Clark Park.
You know what? There is a person that's on, and I don't want to be remiss and not mention this, but there is a person that is on Watch Out Cumberland County, and they are actually looking for this person's kin.
Next of kin.
They're next of kin. They are a young individual, so they're under the age of 30, over the age of 20. And they were actually found in the weeds through a car accident, left for dead. Wow. And they're at Cape Fear Valley. Wow. So if you can go to Watch Out Cumberland County, find out if you know this person. They do have a picture. They have a mask on, but they do have a picture that's out there.
Oh, so new police chief. City of Fayetteville. They finally, after spending another $20,000 or $30,000, which I'll be happy to verify, but the fact is, we love consultants. We love spending money on national searches.
We're federal government children. So.
This is, you know what? The government is not my daddy. So,
who's your daddy?
You want to see some eyebrows raised? You should have seen me in a campaign speech with that. But, it's a second time in a row. When it came to Chief Braden, we did a national search, and it came down to Chief Braden or what was he then? He was Lieutenant Braden or whatever, Captain Braden, whatever. Him and Captain Nolette or whoever Nolette was.
It was. Yep.
So I don't know what position they were then, but anyway, it came down to those two guys. Maybe.
Yeah, I think.
So it came down to two people in our backyard.
Yeah.
And we lost Nolette because they made Braden. I mean, it was probably going to be either or. But here we are again. National search.
I like Nolette.
We all do the things.
I like Nolette.
We do the processes.
Yep.
And then here we are. We hired Mr. Roberto Bryan, Jr.
Used to be the chief
FSU
for
police
FSU
chief.
Police. Yeah.
So what I know about is that he starts on July 7th, and I'm already working on with the Police Foundation to get him in here. So we want to talk to him and hear his thoughts and his vision for the city Fayetteville Police Department. But he has experience with federal and municipal and campus policing, and he has 22 years DEA experience.
That's
and 3 years with the
We might need that
Fayetteville.
as
He's already
Fayetteville
been in the Fayetteville Police
Police.
Department and something called specialized services. So I don't know what that means.
That's not SVU, is it?
No,
I don't know.
No,
I don't
but-
think so.
I'm not sure, but that's
Sound
definitely
like one of
something
them
we would like to
classified
ask him.
services.
Because SBU's state.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so we have a new police chief. And so I guess interim
Ding,
Chief
ding,
Joyce
ding.
gets to step back and take a breath this
So
summer.
now is interim Chief Joyce, the question is going to be, is he going to stay or leave, because he's at the unless he becomes the chief, he's at the pinnacle of his career at this point.
Yeah,
And
I don't see him leaving though.
Having met and known him a little bit, I think he'll be happy to see the position back.
I agree.
I think
just his whole
he's a good guy, and he stepped in when he was needed.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be happy. He's
okay playing second fiddle.
Yeah, I don't think he wanted to be.
He wants to be a good team player.
Yeah.
And he doesn't necessarily need to be the quarterback.
No, yeah,
I think
exactly.
and he's happy with that. I think we have a lot of good people in our department, but with the leadership of Gina Hawkins and what we went through during the George Floyd, and all this other crap, people just.
But you had Chief Braden that cleaned the pool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
he cleaned it some, and there's
started
still
to
some
turn
dirty
it
people
around
out
because
there.
he started to explain to his own cops that, hey, I got your back.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to
But
play
not just-
politics with these people's careers.
Not just that he had their back, but then he's also
going to
willing
hold them
to
accountable.
Hold them accountable to the line. So if you are not towing the line or towing the ethics line, then you also can get booted. Like you are not above the law.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's good policing. And that's why I think a lot of times they call Chief Braden a cop's cop, because I have your back. It's like my mother used to say, if you're in the right, I'll shout with you from the mountaintop. But if you're in the wrong, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire and hold you accountable for it.
Yep.
And that's good leadership. Good leadership says, I got your 6. But if you're out of order, I'm going to be right here up in your face. And
I'm going to hold you to the fire. I'm going to hold you to the line.
And it ain't personal.
No.
But there is a standard. There was a line
standard.
in the sand. And leaders have to be willing to draw that line and hold that line.
Yeah.
And too many times they move that line trying to appease the men and women on the line. But you got to hold that line and say, listen, this is the standard. And either you will adhere to it circumspectly,
right there,
or you will be gone. I mean, and that's what I love about Chief Braden and Chief Joyce. And I knew Chief Joyce when he was Lieutenant Joyce, when he was over the communications. He was every time there was an accident or something going on, he was out there. Him and Captain Streppe, who's now over forget what district that is, but I watched when Captain Streppe was Sergeant Streppe.
Yeah,
and so we got good police officers. But what I think, to what Peter was talking about, us with these consulting groups coming in, and I'm gonna keep saying it. And I don't have no issue with the new police chief. I don't know him. I plan to get to know him, but I think we got so much good talent right there on the police department that we shouldn't have to go outside.
We do. We have a lot of great talent.
The search committees is a big CYA for the city management. I think is really what that's about. But it really is unfortunate. I don't know why we can't just say, hey, who wants to apply locally?
Yeah.
And just talk to people that we know. My goodness, how many people are in your
I
network?
think there was
your
a lot
network,
of
her
people
network?
that actually applied locally for that chief position.
and it's always cheaper to hire from within.
Yeah.
It's
And people within have put the work in that department. When you got individuals who've been on the force for 20, 25, 30 years working right here in Fayetteville, they know Fayetteville. And I think that to have a good chief, you got to know the people that you're policing, the community that you're protecting and serving, and you got to know the men and women that hold that line. And when you have all of that ingredient in there, it makes for a good combination and a good outcome. The city, like you said, they have their reasons for why they go outside, and
I think
it's more of a CYA, like you're saying. I'm in agreement with you.
It's what kills me.
It's a check the box.
I'd rather risk the lawsuit of just hire somebody local over somebody else. Anyway, so I want to move on.
What we got with Gina Hawkins from pulling somebody from outside.
They want to make sure that it's not like, probably too liberal friendly.
We need to stop being so easily scared.
But
sometimes.
when you create
I
that
ain't never
environment,
So I do want to say one more thing about local things going on politically. We got, has anybody kept up with PwC trying to open another solar farm up Ramsey Street across from ZipQuest?
So I heard about the solar farm.
So the county commission refused to rezone a bunch of agricultural land or rezone it to agricultural so they could put...
What's it zoned at? Do you know what it's zoned as now?
It's not-
Residential?
It's just not what it is. I think it is residential. And the county commission said no. And they want to preserve that area for nature or whatever else.
It's a beautiful area back there.
But it's indicative of the relationship between the county and PwC owned by City of Fayetteville that it's not always a what do you call it, like a lay down relationship. There is still conflict there, and I think some of that stems from PwC being resistant to work with the county, and I think they just got some comeuppance a little bit. But I personally don't even agree with solar farms, but because what are you going to do in 20 years when the panels go bad? Go ahead,
Carrie. my thing is, I don't know, I didn't score great in chemistry.
Physics and
maybe biology, but physics and chemistry was kind of hard for me. But as you're having this discussion, and I think back to like the landfill and everything, and I know the landfill is out there making, what is it, like, I think it's making butane
Methane.
or something, methane.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's out there making methane on one side of it, but the side that's probably not making methane or can't make methane anymore, like, can't we just put solar panels on top of there? Or would there be like some electrical magnetic combustion that could possibly, I don't know, like I don't know the physics or chemistry behind it, but can't we use the landfill to do both solar and methane?
We're going to have Elon put solar panels in the sky, let them float around, and we done. That's it. You see, we solved the problem.
No, you can't have solar panels in the sky.
Why not?
I don't. Again, like I said, my
plug in his
chemistry and
extension cord.
physics, but I do not believe.
Carrie don't understand. Elon getting ready to build an actual Starship Enterprise.
Yeah.
But I tell you, the Enterprise
Going to
gonna
Mars.
fly
Okay, you can
over.
do the Starship Enterprise, but the Starship is outside of the stratosphere, so that's a little bit beyond the solar system.
Coming back to Earth, when we get back, we have a lot to talk about for a local homeless situation right when we get back.
Humanity.
Have another cup of coffee and get fired up with the Carolina Cabinet, Eastern North Carolina's smartest conservative morning talk show. Free thinking, hard hitting, truth telling. You're listening to the Carolina Cabinet, Eastern North Carolina's answer to the radical left. Liberal media's blah, blah, blah.
Blah.
Welcome back to local conservative talk radio.
I'm going to leave your mic off next time.
blah,
That's
blah,
with my announcer. So, all right. So, guys, we're having good conversations, but we're definitely exceeding our usual radio time. That's for sure. I think we're at like 40-some minutes already. But recent local news. Homelessness is back at the top of it.
Yep.
The Regency Motel, which we might as well just call it the Regency Roach Motel, was finally condemned by the city.
Yep.
And they showed
Finally.
up.
Officially.
But this is the thing, and I want y'all to imagine people that are already down on their luck, and this is the only option they have, even if it's 6 people to a room, and the city government shows up with a bunch of their little clean little white vehicles from code enforcement and the city police,
I love code
and they just tell everybody,
I got to keep my mouth shut.
get out. On a Friday, I mean, so I have a little problem with the timing of why couldn't they do it on a Monday when people are going to be at work Tuesday and Wednesday to help? They made everybody scramble. Now, there was some claim that they had coordinated with some nonprofits before they just went over there and, shock trooped them. But they displaced how many people, Carrie? I know you've been involved with it.
Yeah, I have been involved with it. And that's why you have this long side eye.
Yeah.
Bombastic
Because
side
of
eye.
the simple fact that, like, I understand what everybody's saying about bombardment. However, I do check my social media, and I could have sworn like a week prior to they said that this was going to happen and that code enforcement was coming out. So like there was like a warning
But where they
initially. However, in further research, after hearing everything, as much as it pains my heart, and to me personally, I feel it still comes back to we the people.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, it comes back to we the people. Because we are not, we talk a great game, an awesome game. We talk like we want to help our neighbor. We want to help humans. We want to fight for humanity. And then there are some of us that do. And of course, your coat gets tired and you have to go home, or you run into some kryptonite and you have to recharge. However, there are plenty of others that talk a great game, and then
Who
when
are the
things
others
happen,
you're talking about?
Well,
here? Are you
look-
talking about nonprofits?
well, I'm not talking about nonprofits
Okay.
specifically. I mean, there could be some that fall into play, but there are some people, like, for example, there was a bus that came down to take people to one of the poorest counties in the state of North Carolina.
Okay.
Okay, so they're busing them from Cumberland County to
New York
the
does that to
poorest-
us. New York brings. I can't tell
I
you the number
understand
of
that.
homeless people.
I understand that. But last year, when we were trying to bus some people to Durham
Mm-hmm.
to an actual physical recovery center, there was like a whole there was a protest for like 3 days, and people were there protesting with the TV stations and everything. Nobody protested this bus coming down to take people
Yeah.
to the poorest county in North Carolina.
Where's the poorest county in North Carolina?
It's on the other side of Greenville, right next, not too far from the state of Virginia line.
Okay.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. I think it's like
So-
the town of
Well,
Washington or
I
something.
agree with. I think timing, and I mean, if somebody could have had a conversation, right? Okay, we're gonna wait till next week to do this. Let's get some people together, because we're about to displace 50 people, 75 people. We're about to displace all these people. So let's get together with maybe some local clergy, some planners, 501c people, and let's see if we can come up with a plan.
And
Well,
let's
the
get
thing
together
is
with
that
the
the
people
time-
that are staying there
Yeah.
and have conversations with them and say, look, this is coming. What is your plan?
Yep.
And do you need us to assist you? Because beyond, it's like when they move them from by MLK Highway.
Yes.
Like you give them a couple of days, a week notice, they're homeless. Where are they going?
Yeah.
So then you have them moving into the bus shelters
Yep.
and everything else. So not just having a conversation with nonprofits and city and county leaders and community organizations and community leaders, you got to have a conversation with the people you're getting ready to displace
Yeah, I
to
agree.
find out what's your plan.
Yeah.
I mean, when
And
I
then
ran
what's
the
their
men's
mindset?
shelter, that's what we did.
I think there's a gap between what that actual individual needs and then your social media warriors. We need to help the home. How many comments have I seen that says we need the homeless, but the county's worried about a damn event center? It's like,
But the county
you-
wasn't over
Hol-
the past couple of weeks.
hold on. The
Go ahead,
county
I'm
can
sorry.
do both because it's the job of the county to do both.
Yeah.
Yes.
But people misperceive, well, the county's spending money here. Why can't we help homeless? Now, I want to ask everybody this. How much is it responsibility of my county government to put a roof over your head?
It's not the
It's not.
responsibility
It
of your
is not.
county.
It is
But
not.
it is the responsibility of health and welfare and safety to help.
But
and
why?
offer
So
help.
here's the thing: is that why is it responsible of health, welfare, and safety? It's because it's for the health, welfare, and safety of every individual. Because what you do not realize, or what people do not realize, is that when you have homeless that go into these places that are ridden with bed bugs and
Drugs,
other type
fentanyl,
of but other type of infestations.
Sex trafficking.
When you go
Yes.
to,
Yep.
I mean, I'm not even going to talk about those. I'm just going to talk about the basic infestations that where
Basic
you can,
condition.
basic
Dirty
condition
room.
infestations, right? So when those people go to those rooms and then you place them into the Holiday Inn or the extended stay or the Motel 6, guess what happens in those places?
Yep.
Those lovely infestations, they bring them as neighbors and friends into those places. So now you have introduced a different level of
Well, now you spread the problem.
So
you are
Basically,
spreading. So
yeah.
it becomes
So
an
let me tell you how
infection.
you fix
So
that.
people do not realize that it becomes an infectious disease
Bishop.
type of issue. But go ahead, Bishop.
let me tell you how you fix that, because we dealt with it when I ran the men's shelter. You had guys coming in off the street. They were homeless. They were bug infested. They had all these different things going on. Prior to you coming in, you were assigned to someone, and we made sure that your stuff the first thing you did was you stripped down, you showered, you did laundry, We gave you everything new. We checked your stuff. So if you say you put them in the Holiday Inn or wherever, then maybe have a liaison there when you are bringing these people over to walk them through that process. That, hey, these guys, before they can check into a room, laundry needs to be done. They need to shower. Then take them into a room. You can't just throw them into a hotel, especially one that is frequented by the general public. You know, you have to have some mechanisms in place. I mean, if that's the case, before they go to a hotel, take them behind to the day resource center where there are showers and where there are washers and dryers. Let them go there, have a change of clothes for them there, and then do not move them into the hotel until they have gone through that decontamination, whatever. But there are mechanisms that can be put in place. The problem is what the city and the county like to do is just dump them off on the next entity and say, they're your problem. No,
absolutely.
They're not your problem. The county is responsible for the homeless population. They get the funding for it.
So that brings me to another point. So what is I wanted to say, what is the scope of the issue of homeless in this county? What was the last pit count for this year, which is a point-in-time count?
Did we do one, or was it?
We did.
No, we did.
We
did
one.
It was.
I think it was like around.
It was right below 400.
Yeah,
this time. I think it was 392, something like that.
That they can actually count.
Well, that they can actually count.
Say
so before we run with 400 people, we're going to say that number's probably off by a factor of 2, even 3. So 1,200, maybe 1,600, but still we have. That's
almost 900
that's less than
homeless
1% of the entire population of this county. Okay, so we're dealing with a small group of people that are being pushed around politically. You know, so I remember people running for city council. We're going to help the homeless. First of all, city council doesn't do anything for the homeless.
Exactly.
At all, period.
Except we provided as a city the Day Resource Center, which is supposed to be kind of a I called it the 411 of nonprofits.
Yeah,
you got to go there to get assessed.
It's not for the homeless though.
Well, who's it for?
So the Day Resource Center was actually sent up because it was using ARPA funds. So it was sent up to be like a resilience resource center.
Okay.
So anyone that was in need for like a disaster recovery, like they lost their home or anything, they should be able to go there and get the actual resources that they need to be resilient and be able to rebuild their lives.
So what's the reason people are homeless? Is it because they can't keep a job, or is it because of mental health? Is it what
I think
what's
there's
several.
So
what's the number one reason we think people are homeless?
In this county, a lot of people are homeless, especially the men.
Okay.
A lot of the men in Cumberland County are homeless because many of them are sex offenders. And as a sex offender, you cannot live or work in certain areas, and because of the jobs that they're supposed to get, they can't be in those areas. So for them, a lot of times the safest place to be is out on the street in the wood line. You have a lot of people who are homeless. A lot of people are homeless by choice. They just choose not to live.
Well, I think what I'm talking about are the people that are homeless but would accept help.
Yeah.
Because,
well,
like you said, the people that are content, they're not going to accept help.
Yeah.
They're going to want to be left alone. But so I would group sex offenders in with mental illness anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to be something wrong with them to touch a little kid anyway.
Again, and addiction ties.
And I think every person that is homeless for a certain amount of time,
after a certain amount of time,
you have
suffer from mental illness.
You cannot be in those conditions.
It wears on you.
Yeah, it wears on you. You may have been normal when you got out there, but give it a couple of weeks.
Give it about 2 months. Some mental illness. After 2 months, the
stuff
have
you
some
see and experience, it's like being in combat.
Yeah.
So you have between 400 to 1,200 people in our county that are suffering from mental illness, possible criminal backgrounds, all kinds of reasons why they're homeless. But what the solutions are available right now, right this second, for somebody's homeless, he's got a mental condition. What can the county or city or federal government do? What is the immediate available to them right now?
Honestly, if I can be really honest and
no,
really frank,
I want you to hold back. No.
The only thing that I can say that you can do that would even be worth a grain of salt is pray. Because our nonprofit organizations, some of them communicate and some of them do not communicate effectively. And then some of them have resources and some of them do not. And then some of them make it a very hard task.
Let me tell you,
for an individual, the red tape that a person has to go through in order to get those resources is enough to ricochet anybody that is not in the right mind to stay on the street and put them in the mind to just not really give a care about anything. So the number one defense that you can have for homelessness is prayer and love. That is the number one. And I know it sounds very
touchy-feely, hippie.
Touchy-feely.
I didn't think you was a hippie
or whatever.
Liberal.
But no, so here's the thing: is that prayer. And I'm hoping Pastor Josh and Bishop might be
She's
able to
going to
back
catch
me
on
up.
to me calling her a liberal in just a second.
But prayer can be very confrontive and
Confrontational.
very
Oh.
combative
If you
and
have
very
honest prayer, yeah.
ugly.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you really praying, like
I
if
seen
you
some ugly people pray.
if you going toe to toe
Hit every branch
about
on the
some
way down.
issues,
Oh, let me tell you.
and then the Bible does say, you know what I'm saying,
Eye
that
for an
until
eye?
no,
Oh.
no,
God,
no,
Peter.
no.
I'm going Old Testament on y'all
I think
tonight.
Pastor Josh knew where I was going. But if my people
Would you pick
Yep.
up what she's
would
laying
humble
down?
themselves
Yep.
Yeah.
and
Get my
pray
people.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
and seek my face,
Well, but
then I
prayer-
will hear their. I will hear
but-
because you have all of 301. So if you go from, I want to take you from Black and Decker Road all the way to past Cape Fear Botanical Gardens.
Yep.
Right? You go down that strip. That is nothing but an environment that embeds or that it creates and it stabilizes an environment for human trafficking. So
agree.
until we actually face our problem head on. So you said in previous messages, to the group about how you get a 10-day curfew on your grass being over 5 inches.
Right.
Right? Okay, so what's up with them buildings that are abandoned that could be used for shelter?
I'll speak to that right now. So what you have is a difference between myself trying to be a responsible property owner, and I appreciate getting the code enforcement letters because it tells me my grass needs to be cut or something's torn, damaged, whatever, and it helps me manage all the stuff I have coming at me. Now, I also am the guy that has a good reputation down there at code enforcement because I call the people that sent me the letter and I say, hello, I'm Peter. I have your letter. Can you give me until XYZ to fix it? I didn't call them and say, why the hell did you send me a letter? So there are people that work with them and work against them. And the buildings that you see that are complete crap boxes.
They don't talk to anybody.
They can't reach anybody. And then the code enforcement person, just in the last 3 months, I've seen 2 or 3 of the guys that I depended on leave the office.
Okay,
So there's a lot of turnover and it's not being handed off to the city assistant attorney who's supposed to handle it.
So so here's the biggest question. And to me this still goes back to homelessness because we're creating an environment for them that sustains them.
Yeah.
Right? And it sustains their habits that they may fall into. So as a
But doesn't that go
property
back to 1A?
investor, it doesn't.
Freedom to
'cause as
assemble.
Yeah, I mean, you can assemble where you want to. However, if it's not a safe place to assemble, then you should not assemble there because of the health and care that you were talking about before. Like if it could cause harm, you remember, do no harm. Okay, do no harm.
I'm with you.
All right. So I'm a very advocate of do no harm. So as a property investor, how can we actually fix this to get investments that would tear down those buildings? I mean, just like, for example, and I know that there's been, buildings that have been torn down and left as vacant land. So now you can't provide an environment.
Well, I mean, I did that. I got tired of being hassled by the city on one building I had downtown. It needed lots of work, but I just got tired of it and told the guy to knock it down.
But-
now I got an empty lot.
But here's the thing that you have to
So-
understand when you're dealing with the homeless, and because they're considered the homeless or the unhoused, a lot of people's fix is build something, put them in there, give them a place to stay. But if
Out
you
of
don't-
sight, out of mind,
yeah,
almost.
But if you don't have the wraparound services for these individuals, they will you will not change anything. You will just have a bunch of deviants and sex trafficking victims and everything else housed in a building that is
That
at
will be
some
condemned
point
a year
will be
later.
condemned
Yep.
again. It's just like when they built those little townhouses down on Rowan.
Yep.
And they were beautiful for about a year till you start driving by and the blinds are all torn up because the people that went in there let the kids rip up the blinds and mess up the property and stuff. If you don't deal with I dealt with this at the men's shelter. We had guys that would come in addicted and everything else. We give you a turn. We give you about 7 good days to kind of catch your bearing, to breathe a little bit. But after that, let's get a plan in place to move you from where you were when you got here to where you need to be when you get out of here. I heard you, Carrie, talk about scriptures. One thing the Bible says, the poor you will have with you always.
Always.
So when the disciples came to Jesus after when Mary broke open her alabaster box and they said, listen, well, you wasting this on him. Mm-hmm. You could have sold that and gave the money to the poor. Jesus said, leave her alone. She's doing a good thing.
Yep.
We got, but then the other thing is, the scripture that says, if my people, we gotta be clear on that.
Yes.
He's not talking to everybody. He said, if my people,
yes,
which are called by
his
my name, will
Mm-hmm.
humble themselves and
yes,
pray.
that is correct.
Then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and watch this, I will heal their land, not the land.
No,
I will heal their land.
That's
so
correct.
this is a promise that is specific to the people of God, and everybody ain't the people of God.
That is true.
And so we have to be so prayer changes things, but faith without works is dead. So I can pray and get a building and put you in a building, but if there's no work
in the
then
building,
you're just going to be right back, like Pastor Josh said. You're going to be right back. The building going to be condemned in a year or so.
Yep.
You're going to be right back out on the street because the work hasn't been done to transform you. The prayer is one thing, but the Bible also says, howbeit this kind only come out but by fasting and prayer. So it has
Bishop's
to be
starting to preach, y'all.
He sure is. He even added. So don't just pray. You gotta be of God when you pray.
Go ahead. You have to have resources in place. If we talk about the homeless or the unhoused, if that's what they want to be called now, you can't just put them in another house. You have to look at why they're homeless, like you said earlier. Are you homeless because you had a job but you couldn't manage your money? If I just stick you in another place, you'll be broken on the street again because you've never learned how to manage your money.
Right.
So I have to have the wraparound resources to put you to set you up for success, and not just to check off the boxes saying, we had 1,200 homeless, but now we only got 400 because we got 800 beds and they're full. But guess what? Those 800 going to circle back and be homeless again because you never gave them the resources to fix the problem. So here's how we fix this problem. Make Archbishop Miner the city's homeless czar.
Benevolent dictator.
Give me about 6 months. And I'm saying it jokingly, but when I was over at Inasmuch, I took 2 years with the executive director to build out a program that would take these men from trial to triumph, that will show these men that they may have boundaries, but there are no barriers. Let's remove the barriers. Yeah, there are boundaries, but no barriers. And we put a program in place that was designed to heal the whole man. So not just get you off the street. We got you off the street, got you in a safe environment.
Yeah.
Loved on you, prayed with you, had Bible study, but during the day, you were going to classes. You were getting things done that needed to get done. You were reconciling with family. We were dealing with that addiction. We got counselors coming in. We are working on you from top to bottom, inside out, so that when you walk out of these doors, you are healed and whole. Not just, my time is up. Got it? No, you are healed and whole. In the city or the county, I hear a lot of people say, oh, this is a county issue. It is, but it's also a city issue. Here's why. Most of the homeless are in the city of Fayetteville. So the city has to stop saying, oh, kick that over to the county. It's a county issue. It may be a county issue economically.
We need to take the government out of it. Like I said earlier, it's we the people, and it's we the people. We
need the people to donate some money.
Okay, but we do need the people. But what I will say to go to your point and to go to what Peter had asked me earlier. So in my networking and dealing with the different nonprofits, I was having a conversation one day with Off-Road Outreach. And they had mentioned to me,
Buckner.
Yes, Stacy Buckner.
I love Stacy.
And she had mentioned, she was like, "Hey, Carrie, have you heard of Good Homes off of Cross Creek?" And I was like, "No, I haven't heard of Good Homes off of Cross Creek. I think I've seen it. Like I saw them when they were building it."
Talking about the old Holiday Inn,
the old Holiday Inn off of Cedar Creek Road. that they're building. It's right across from Beasley and Ruby
It's open.
Tuesdays, and it is now open. And they are actually, their goal is to create exactly what you are saying, Bishop. They have a community manager there. She was saying, Carrie, that place it's great, and they have places that start out at $750 and they go up, and they are trying to create an environment that actually does exactly what you're saying. So I haven't gone down to tour said facility. However, I believe that is something where if you could take your vision and the platform that you have and maybe partner up with them, and then if we could recreate something like that, or even use that as a test vehicle to do what you were saying, Bishop, because your program was very successful. The only thing that I would say is that we need to bulldoze all of those properties that are uninhabitable or not livable. Okay, if you can't live in them, you know what I'm saying? They have been either condemned by the county or the city, which it takes them to do that, right? And I understand it takes a process, but once they have been condemned, they need to be demolished in order to create a non-breeding
You're stepping
ground.
on private property rights. I know your heart's in the right place, but that's the problem that these keyboard warriors don't understand. You can't tear another man's building down.
Even though the property is condemned.
Doesn't matter.
It's still
You got to
owned by
take it to
somebody,
court.
yeah.
You still got to, and then basically what would happen is the county or city would do it, and then they would tack on a lien to your property. But you're talking about several years to go before that happens. And I do want to bring this up because with the Regency, it was sold a couple of years ago, one and a half years ago, to the gentleman that owns it now. And through our network, I think we know there's probably going to be some other things in the news, charges. I do want to tell you, as of today, June 2nd, there wasn't one mention in the Fayetteville Observer that I could find over this issue. And that's our local newspaper, okay? But I do have a neighbor. I told you, I got a network.
I got a guy.
You know, I got a guy.
You got a guy.
And he had been in prison, felon, got out, and he reached out to me, and he says, I stayed there when I got out of prison. And he told me a little bit about what was going on, and essentially, we brought back modern-day slavery. These guys, whoever was running the hotel, and I don't know if it was the owner, I don't know who it was, but whoever was in charge had the keys. There was 6 guys to a room, and these guys were being made to work 8 to 10 hours a day, not being paid, just in exchange for a roof over their head. And it wasn't just for repairs at that motel. Up and down Ramsey, this guy had property, whoever owned it. So we have,
And that happens,
and that's
Peter.
when we talk about good homes
No.
and stuff like that. That's what scares me.
Yeah.
You get a lot of homeless people that are vulnerable, together. How easy is it to exploit them?
And
to threaten, I'm going to take the roof over your head if you don't.
Yeah, and that is one of and I don't want to, talk, and I usually don't care, but I don't want to, besmudge or besmirch the program that I work for. But that was one of the stipulations there, was that you worked for your stay. You came in and you had to work a certain amount of hours a week, and
but I think that was structured.
It could be other organizations that needed you, but what I did, I'll tell you what I did, because the guys were being used to work at different places for free to keep their beds. So what I did is I implemented where if you want my guys to work, you must pay $14 an hour, a minimum of 3 hours per guy, and you must also provide them with lunch and transportation.
Right.
So if you came to the lodge and you said, hey, I need 4 guys to help me this Saturday, that's fine. You're going to sign this agreement, and you agree to feed my guys. You agree to if I don't care if you keep them for 1 hour, you will pay them for 3 hours. The money doesn't come to us. Every bit of that money goes to them because they did the labor.
Yeah.
But you're not going to work my guys for free.
Right.
That's not what's going to happen.
But see, you were dealing with an above board structured nonprofit. These folks, unfortunately, were grifting off the backs of these men and women that were there. And again, it was exploitative. I mean, any way, shape, or form. You're talking about human trafficking up and down the street. How far along do you think it would take before whoever was running the place to find a cute one?
Technically, that still is human trafficking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter however you look at it.
It is
Slavery
human
is just human trafficking in a different form.
Yep.
So,
But you know what happens when you start? Here's the flip side to putting a program in place that begins to address the issue. The minute the word gets out, the Cumberland County or Fayetteville has this amazing program. Every other county will start sending people here.
What is our reward as a community for doing really well by that very small
you will
population?
Get a massive. We saw it during Hurricane Matthew.
Yep.
When Robeson County flooded, the people, the homeless and everything, they flooded to Cumberland County because they were told we had resources here for them. So they started coming from the surrounding counties and caused our homeless numbers to be exasperated because everyone thinks we have the resources. The truth of the matter is we don't have as many resources as people think we have.
Exactly.
And we do have a lot of nonprofits, but most of those nonprofits are your sit-at-home nonprofits, which is, I got this idea, I want to help, so I'll bag up some sandwiches, I'll try to find some resources, I'll take a little money out of my
People
own
that
pocket
have good
to help.
hearts, but not the process and procedure in place to be
and
a
they
nonprofit.
don't have the resources.
Right.
And the problem is that I've noticed is that a lot of times when the county gets money or even the city, they have cherry-picked organizations that they give those resources to, and you got to pretty much kiss the ring of those organizations or you are on your own. And so that kind of segues to, I'm in the process of writing a book called Provision is in the Vision, where I'm talking about how nonprofits can sustain themselves without grants, without having to kowtow to the government to get resources. Because Impact, we did it where we were generating about $15,000 a month before COVID, and we weren't getting any grants. We've never gotten grants. We were doing it because we had fundraisers set up. We were doing things on a regular basis to generate the revenue that we needed.
Do you have a fundraiser coming up? Sorry, I thought
Yes.
I saw a plate sale.
We do. We're
Impact
going to be
One is
doing
having a plate sale.
I think it's this coming Sunday. We are doing deep fried spare ribs.
Come on.
In
Deep fried
spare ribs in a garlic and Parmesan sauce. We're doing baked beans. We're going to do corkscrew mac and cheese and homemade corn muffins.
So I did see it on social media then.
Some beef
all right. So
ribs?
I can.
We're not going to solve homelessness in one session, but I think there's more to come, more to learn about the situation at the Regency. Carrie, you're looking at me with some eyes right now.
Bombastic.
No,
I don't.
It's
The thing is, we know there's criminal activity that went on down there, and I
know.
hope whoever did it gets hung out by their.
And I think we need to keep driving that message home. And I said it in the group earlier. We need to be relentless in driving this home.
Yeah, we have no reason to be quiet about this.
Whether it's an investigation going on or not, we're not impeding on the investigation. If anything, us keeping a spotlight on it and driving it home actually helps the investigation, because it gives people comfortability to come out and to tell their stories, and that's what those investigators are going to need. So I think we need to drive it home, and one of the things that we also need to do as nonprofits need to stop being so egotistical and come together and work together.
Come to the table.
We can solve these issues if we come together. The problem is everybody wants their name on the banner.
Yeah,
I don't care if Impact name is on the banner. Just let me be in the room to help with the solution.
On, you care a little. You care a little bit.
I really don't.
I
I've done things in this city that you will never know I did because I don't care.
I want to see your name on there so I can say I know that guy.
Okay.
And Peter,
okay.
hey Peter, if I'm a liberal because I pray, then
you know what?
And I am his people.
I know that's right, John.
Our time is up. We about to throw in the towel. I want to say a thank you to our on-air cabinet members, Pastor Joshua Goodman,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Carrie J,
fire the uniparty.
Bishop
And
J.
pray all the
Antoine
time.
Miner.
Here, walking circumspect.
To our audience, I hope you do us a favor this week and visit one of our commercial sponsors. Let them know you heard their message right here on the Carolina Cabinet.
Carolina Cabinet.
If you do somehow miss an episode of our top-rated show,
Not X-rated.
you can find us on your favorite podcast broadcaster, Apple, Spotify, Google, Audible, kind of everywhere. Look for us on thecarolinacabinet.com. You can find all our videos and links. Thanks again for tuning in this morning. Until next time, we are the Carolina Cabinet.
We in there like...